Welcome back. Welcome back. Week 2 is officially in the books. Man, a lot of excitement going on. A lot of teams surprising some teams. Some teams continuing to play at the level that people expect them to play at. But I'm only gonna cover a couple of teams, man. I'm only gonna cover a couple because obviously I'm covering obviously Miami, Syracuse, and Michigan State. But there's some other teams that I have an affinity for, like obviously Georgia and Michigan and Arkansas. But I'm just like I'm not gonna sit here and do commentary on each one of them teams every week. So I will go into a deep detail like I am with the other teams. So I'm just gonna kind of keep them or watch them in the wrap up, and it may change. No, just depending on the matchup, some games that I'm interested in. But but those are the teams we're gonna talk about: Oregon, Boise, Penn State versus Bowling Green, Michigan, Texas, Tennessee versus NC State, and Oklahoma State versus Arkansas. We're gonna start with Oregon versus Boise. Again, another week in which the Oregon that many people, myself included, have slated to be a team that not only plays for the national championship, but may actually win the national championship, right? They didn't look their best. Now, me personally, when I looked at this game, the thing that I took away was that I don't know what it's like. Oregon is having an identity crisis right now, whereas they don't know what they want to do offensively. On one hand, it looks like obviously we know Dan Lanning coached under Kirby Smart, and it seems like he wants some of those principles to apply, which is okay, we're going to be a running team, but we're going to have a selection or a collection of guys on the outside that we're going to make it even easier for you. Like you're already good enough to win against regular coverage against you, but we're going to make it even easier. We're going to take a defender from the back, and he's going to have to come in the box and stop this run. So we're going to make it much easier for you, right? But it doesn't seem like they've had some good that Jordan James is a good running back, but I don't think you can compare Jordan James to some of the ball carriers that Georgia has had. While conversely, I don't think you can look at the wide receiver rooms that Georgia has had and compare them to what Oregon has had, right? So I think it's kind of at least this particular year, it seems to be some type of identity crisis right now. Because when you look at the trio of receivers that they have, you got Tiz Johnson, you got Evan Stewart, you got Trayshawn Holden. I would be hard pressed to think that in excess of 98, 97% of other college football teams wouldn't mind having those three guys individually, but they would probably unalive somebody to have all three of them on the team at the same time. So I think at this particular point, they may have to lean or try to find ways to get those three more involved in offense. The offensive line, again, they've lost a lot of talent to the NFL, and I think again, regardless of what team you're coaching or how much talent you brought in, when you lose a lot of guys with experience that have played at a high level, you're not just going to turn around and just plug and play, guys behind them. Not saying that Oregon's offensive line is mediocre, but there is some drop off, right? But again, as the season goes on, you have to believe that those guys with those in-game reps are going to get better and things are going to get better. But again, it's a lot going on with Oregon right now, and I may come off this again. I admit it. I'm biased to them. So I'm gonna shoot them a little bail every now and again, right? So bear with me, but I do think obviously, but again, any rational person can look, Dylan Gabriel just got there. A lot of guys, quite a few of the guys that they picked up in the portal, they just got there. So you're putting guys together, and this is one of the things that a lot of people that are kind of critical of the portal they bring up is the fact that you're bringing guys in, and then a lot of the guys are going to be thrust into prominent roles early, and they may not have the full grasp of maybe the playbook, the full grasp, especially if they're coming from a completely different conference versus um, playing in a conference where they already play against similar opponents. So the film study is kind of already there. So it's like, say for instance, if you're at the University of Washington and you transfer to the University of Oregon, which like Jabir, I think Muhammad did, then some of the opponents that you play, which again the Pac-12 is gone, but I'm just saying from a hindsight perspective, the film studies the same because it's like, okay, well, I know what these guys are doing, so I can kind of roll in. But it's added when you transfer into another team, and then the team that you just transferred to is also moving to a different conference, right? So and then then you got the teams that you don't normally play, right? So, but that's that. And then I have to say this: listening to other media personalities, some I agree with, some I don't, and but I may be biased to some of the people that I agree with. But there's three teams that I've heard that many people felt that had a legitimate shot at getting that G5 bid, and that is Bowling Green, Boise State, and Liberty. So what I take away from that is, okay, those three teams have to be looked at as teams that have the ability to play with some of the P4 teams. Now, for whatever reason that is, whether it's the development that they've gotten, whether it's the coaching staff, or whether it's just like I said, a veteran team or whatever the situation is. But obviously, they feel like those three particular teams have an opportunity to make a playoff spot. And contrary to what many people may believe, some of these G5 teams do have the ability to beat Power Four teams. It's just simple as that. It's just simple as that. And the thing about Boise State, man, it's not Chris Peterson's Boise State, right? But we've watched Boise State. Anyone that's over there, anyone's my age and older, we watched Boise State. We remember when Boise State first jumped on the scene. We remember the Statue of Liberty play to beat Oklahoma in the bowl game. We still remember this, right? So, and one thing about Boise State that has set them apart from other G5 programs that caught fire is they pretty much stayed consistently good, right? It wasn't like they had their moment and then they just went away like some teams that we've seen in the past, like a Louisville under Charlie Strong. Like Charlie Strong leaves, and then like, okay, well, Louisville's not the same. And maybe that could be the fact that the continuity's not there anymore because you have a head coach, there, and then you have some Power Five teams, the same way. But anyway, kind of get into the game because I don't want to get off on a tangent. But that's what I see from Oregon. It's the identity crisis. They were dominated. When you look at the metrics of it, they were dominated. I mean, it's nowhere around it. The kick return was controversial because you look at it, the man literally he did drop the ball before he crossed the plane, and I don't know if it's one of those rules. I'm not the rules expert, but I do think it is a rule that if a guy fumbles the ball at the goal line, he has to turn around and recover the ball himself. Someone else can't recover it, or maybe I'm off. Maybe I'm off a little bit, but it did seem like or if it rolls into the end zone, something of that nature. I know it's a rule like that because if you look at the replay, his teammate did pick up the ball in the end zone. So it wasn't like a Boise State player, jumped on the ball in the end zone. So obviously, but they ruled it. It was a touchdown, so it is what it is. But Oregon had two big special team plays. They returned the kick and they returned the punt. And kind of, again, looking at the game, those two fumbles that they had in the fourth quarter, that pretty much kept Boise State in the game, right? Because I think by the second half, I think Oregon was in control of what it was that they wanted to do. But those two fumbles put Boise State in position to not just keep the game close, they literally took the lead. You know what I mean? So they're gonna have to clean that up. But again, like I say, I looked at the game. I didn't think Oregon played as bad as many people are saying they do because you look at it and say, well, this is Oregon versus Boise. But again, if you're my age and older, we've watched Oregon be in the same position that that Boise State was in and some of these other teams. And what I mean by that is that we've watched the upstart team, which Boise and Oregon, to me, have somewhat of the same type of past from at least from 2000. And what I mean by that is a program that literally just woke up one day and we're going to start winning. And we're not just gonna start beating teams that we're supposed to beat or you feel like we should beat. We're gonna start beating some of the teams that you feel like we're not supposed to beat. And that's what Oregon did, and that's what Boise State did. So the reason I say that is as much talent as Oregon has, and how little talent that most people may feel Boise State had, these type of games have been happening consistently since 2000, where you have a team that looks like they should be thoroughly outmatched by a team that looks like they have everything in the world going for them, and they lose. Again, watch App State, upstate, upset Michigan, things like that. Not trying to overemphasize this particular point, but that's what it is. But to take my bias away, I do think Oregon does deserve to drop down at least two, maybe three spots, in the polls after the two games that they just played. I really do. Because like I said, I can point to instances in which they should have played better and they should have done some things better. But that would be, to me, that would be disingenuous, because that means I'm taking away from what Idaho and what Boise State were able to do. And I don't want to do that, because I don't want to take anything away from Gentry. Gentry, 6 touchdowns last week, then comes back this week and just plays great again, right? Many people feel like he's the best running back, in this upcoming draft this year, or the best running back in college football, even above Ollie Gordon, even above a Devin Neal, even above a Quinshon Judkins. So the thing about that is, if you have a running back that's that good, obviously he's not just that good because of his own talent. He's that good and he's performing at that level because he has individuals that are blocking up front for him, that is helping him get those type of yards and helping him get that type of adulation. And that is one of the best. So that's another good thing about Boise State. They have a good offensive line. They have a veteran offensive line. I looked it up before I hit record, and they have a lot of guys. They have a lot of starts under their belt. So that's what ends up happening. But I still think Oregon. I still like Oregon. I still do like Oregon. I'm not gonna turn my back on the Ducks just because of 2 games that they played where they didn't look like what we feel like they should look like. But I still like the Ducks. I still like them. But they're gonna clean it up though. They're gonna have to figure out, what it is they want to do offensively. They got to figure out, do they want to be a ground and pound team that throws the ball when they want to throw it, or do they want to be a team that throws the ball and then run it when they want to run it? You know what I mean? So they got to get that figured out, right? But like I said, they got a lot of new pieces, and they got to get it done, man. Simple as that. So moving on to Penn State Bowling Green. Again, another one of those teams from the G5 that people are saying that, hey, look, they got an opportunity to lock up their G5 spot, so they go out and play Penn State. Kind of similar to the Oregon game. I mean, Bowling Green actually took a lead in this game. Actually took a lead in this game. You know what I mean? We're able to throw the ball, we're able to run the ball, and do some things like that, and kind of took the Penn State defense out of the game, because Penn State defense is looked at to be one of the better defenses in all of college football. And Bowling Green was like, not today. You know what I mean? So they were explosive today, Bowling Green's offense. But kudos to Drew Aller, right? Prior to me kind of doing this show, I've kind of listened to other media personalities talk about Drew Aller. And one of the things they kind of, they spoke about was the fact that Drew Aller, he was the type of guy that wanted to mitigate the risk. And what I mean by mitigating the risk, it means that wasn't necessarily really pushing the ball down the field. I think last year, I think from a Big Ten perspective, he had the most pass attempts without an interception, but they were like, but the pass attempts are not just, it's not like he's airing it out. He's being very cautious. And a guy that came in, and shout out to my co-host, Trucking, because he hit me to this, is like, no, like Drew Aller was gaining a lot of, like Drew Aller had a lot of people, prominent people, that said that he's going to be very special, like almost borderline generational type of guy. And obviously, people in Happy Valley have not seen it, but at least this year, it does seem like the reins are being taken off a little bit more, and he's a little bit more confident in what he's doing because over the last 2 weeks, a lot of passes have been completed down the field, and it doesn't hurt when you have Singleton and Allen averaging over 200 yards on the ground. I mean, that doesn't hurt either. So that's good. And I think right now in this new age, Big Ten, I think people that are Penn State fans are feeling like because you're looking at Oregon, which they're not, they haven't played the way that at least these past two games that many people felt they should. And you got Michigan, what just happened to them against Texas. I mean, Penn State fans are probably looking like, all right, James Franklin, man, Ohio State. I mean, Will Howard, he's not C.J. Stroud, right? So you kind of look at it and you kind of as a Penn State fan, you got to look at it and say, look, quarterback, you can make an argument from an experience standpoint, just being at one school. Okay, we have that in our favor. Duo of running backs, I think most people will probably like them even above Quinshawn Juggins and Travion Henderson, right? So that may be 1, 2, right? Um, Wide receiver, picked up a guy like a Julian Fleming and things like that, along with some other guys. So you think about that, and then you probably think that this year, man, we got the best defense in the Big Ten, if not the second best. But in any regard, Penn State fans have to look at this particular year and say, look, man, Johnny Franklin, this has to be the year. The last time was obviously when Trace McSorley and Saquon Barkley were here. But like right now, everything is in order for Penn State to win the Big Ten and make a playoff. The playoffs are extended. So I think, and I'm not saying I don't think James Franklin is on the hot seat or anything like that. But then again, I'm not as close to the Penn State situation as most people are. Because some people may feel like, yeah, James Franklin need to get fired. Like, which obviously is always fans like that. But just from the outside looking in, like Penn State has pretty much everything that they need to make this year count. They have to make it count. Because again, like I said, you look at Oregon, they're struggling a little bit. You look at the fall of Michigan. You look at Ohio State, which they look good against the level of competition that they play. Now, obviously, USC kind of threw a monkey wrench by going to beat LSU like they did. But Penn State fans have to think like, look, we should be in the driver's seat this year. We got everything. Drew Aller looks to be throwing the ball down the field more, which is opening up for Nick Singleton and Allen. So we got to get it done, man. And they got two big turnovers against Bowling Green towards the end of the game, which pretty much put the game out of reach. But sometimes you do need those type of tests to kind of see where you are mentally, to see whether the guys will shake under the pressure. And Penn State didn't shake. So hopefully, they sit down, they look at what transpired on the defensive side of the ball, and they get back to playing Penn State defense, and the offense comes back and still is complimentary, and we'll see what the season is. But I think many Penn State fans have to look at this and say, look, man, this has to be the year. This has to be the year because you stand to lose some pieces, which they have lost pieces in the past, but we're talking about some of the pieces that people have watched over the last 2 to 3 years that are now in a position to be the actual factors that are going to be the ones that, especially from an offensive side, that are going to have a bigger impact on the win-loss column, right? Well, obviously that starts with Drew Aller. But it was a good game though, man. I still think Bowling Green still has a shot to, be one of those teams, but we'll see how it goes. So now moving on. This will be the third Big Ten team we talked about. Michigan versus Texas. Again, pregame show, me and my co-host Chucky did yesterday. I literally said, look, I think Michigan has a chance to pull off the upset. I really did. And I'm gonna tell you where my research or where my prediction or what my prediction didn't take into account. I thought Texas lost some experience along the offensive line. It was early in the game where I realized, oh, that's not the case. They still got it. They still have guys that have a crap ton of starting experience. And so when I saw that, I knew immediately. I said, "Oh no, 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 no! I don't think this gonna, I don't think this gonna go the way I think it's gonna go." And we saw it. Quinn Ewers had plenty of time. We saw Michigan literally rotating, defensive linemen. We saw it was one play where Wink Martindale literally took Graham and put him at defensive end, and it's like Sarkisian saw it. Oh, he's over there. All right, let's just run it to the other side. And then when Graham was out of the game and the backups were in, oh, we're gonna run straight at them. So I mean, it was just I don't think Michigan's defense has not been taken advantage of like that probably since Don Brown was there. And Don Brown put some great defenses on the field for Michigan, but there were those games where it's like, bro, like they carved the Don Brown defense up, right? Like I'm sitting here looking at the game, I'm like, bro, I do like they will get like there were certain plays they were outflanked. They weren't moving over to remain the edge. Like it made it so easy. Like I know it was one play in particular where they were literally outflanked and they sealed the edge and the running back literally just I mean he literally waltzed into the end zone. I'm like, bro, like what is going on here? I'm sitting here thinking like there's no way in the world a Jesse Minter defense, a Jesse Minter's Michigan defense would look this discombobulated. There's no way. I don't know what Wink was doing. Again, in the beginning of the game, they made mention that Steve Sarkisian had coached against Wink Martindale before when Wink was the defensive coordinator for the Ravens and he was the offensive coordinator for the Falcons. And again, the thing of it is that obviously Wink Martindale runs the same defense that Michigan has been running the past couple of years because Jesse Minter and Mike McDonald had learned from him, right? So the verbiage was still the same, but it was just almost I guess the execution of it. Like I'm just looking and obviously I watched Michigan sparingly last year. I did. But when I did watch them play, in the sparingly times that I did watch them, these type of mistakes, I did not see these type of mistakes happening. I did not. And Texas, again, a slew of weapons. I mean, just a slew of weapons, an embarrassment of riches, as they say. To the point that I'm like, I have to tip my hat to Steve Sarkisian, the fact that you have to oversee an offense in which not that everyone has to get an opportunity, but the guys that have earned it, they have to get an opportunity, right? So I saw a play where they give the ball to Ryan Wingo on a reverse, where again Michigan just outflanked. Um, Obviously, Silas Bolden catches a touchdown. Goldman catches a touchdown. Um, you know, Helm had, a couple of catches. Jaden Blue some catches out of the backfield. I mean, it was just like Steve Sarkisian. It got to a point to where when they had went up, it was one drive. I tweeted this out. Like, oh man, like Texas, this is a throwaway drive because they literally just ran the ball. Like there was no attempt to pass the ball whatsoever. And I'm jokingly tweeting like, well, Sark, like, oh well, I know they can't score, but let me give them another opportunity to see, right? Let me see if they're gonna try to make the game competitive. And they didn't, so it was almost like, well, I got, I'm acting like Sark. I'm like, well, I got some more stuff I can pull out, but I, we already got the victory, so there's no need to open the clip up. So I cracked open this book, but I'm gonna go ahead and close it because I don't need this. Now, if this was Jesse Minter, oh, you gonna need that. But when the defense is not doing the fundamentals, you don't have to get ultra creative, right? And again, kudos to Michigan to Texas defense, right? I don't know what again. I like Michigan was thoroughly outcoached. Like I think anyone watching the game can see that because the whole thing was just like, okay, when Alex Orji comes in the game, he's gonna run the ball. But I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, well, everyone knows that, right? But y'all, I know they're going to have an opportunity where he throws the ball. Like that didn't happen. I mean, it didn't happen. So I'm sitting, I'm literally sitting here like, y'all are getting out coached, man. Like y'all are thoroughly getting out coached. Run game was not there. But kudos to Michigan again for I think at one point they were down 24-3 or something. They still hard at it. Still turning around, handing the ball off. So I mean, but again, most people felt they were going to take a step back. They are, and more or less, they're not going to play another team that has um, the weaponry that Texas has. So I'm not about to just throw the towel in because I feel like, with the exception of Ohio State and do they play Michigan? I don't have the schedule right up in front of me. But unless they're playing Ohio State and Oregon again, um, there's not another team that I feel like they will be able to do what Texas just did to them, other than Oregon, which I think I have to put an asterisk beside it because I don't know if Oregon can do that right now based on what I've seen. But the only other team that I feel like they'll play that can do that to them is Ohio State. But other than that, I mean, I I think Michigan can still get away with it, right? I think most people still kind of got them at the 8 win mark, maybe as low as 7. But nobody else they're gonna play can do that. Like nobody else they play is Steve Sarkisian. Nobody else that they play has a Quinn Ewers at quarterback. No one else that they play has this allotment of receivers that they have other than Ohio State. So, whereas as a Michigan fan, I'm not trying to tell y'all how to feel because I'm sure y'all feel a certain type of way about this, but y'all are not going to play another team as good as Texas the rest of the season, the rest of the regular season, except for maybe Ohio State. So I think they'll be fine. Now they're going to have to get Alex Origin involved in the passing game because even the worst team can say we don't, even the worst team is like, we don't need Connor Stallions to tell us that when Ellis Orgy gets in the game, he's going to run the ball. Like, we can see that. It's on film. So they're going to have to do something with that, right? And they're going to have to find some type of way to get the ball. I mean, I know, I see what they're doing. Like, this is the 2021 game plan over again where they back and forth between the quarterbacks. But at least in 2021, both quarterbacks did have the opportunity to throw the football. I will give him this. So Sharon Moore, that was Josh Gaddis' last year there. So Sharon, you and your offensive staff, y'all gonna have to get some plays together where Alex Orji throws the ball. And again, maybe throwing Michigan too much bail. This is just the second game of the season, right? This is just the second game of the season. So I can understand a situation where you may not want to try to do too much too fast. So maybe if this game had been the seventh or eighth game of the season, maybe you could see a little bit more what Michigan wants to do offensively. Again, I'm just playing. I'm just playing. I'm just being an advocate right now, right? I'm just being a contrarian right now. But with that being said, I mean, Texas, after a game like that, I mean, Texas, Miami, and Georgia, like as of right now, those are the top 3 teams in college football right now. Like, and obviously I'm biased to Miami because that's my team, but just from play, just overall play right now, those 3 teams have to be the 3 best teams in college football. And I would throw Syracuse somewhere in the top 10. I mean, that's just, I mean, like there is no struggle out of any of these teams. Like they're like nothing looks difficult. Nothing looks difficult for them. Not like Texas literally went up to they went to Ann Arbor, right? And I made mention of this on the show with Trucking. I said Texas went to Tuscaloosa and beat Alabama. They just went up to Ann Arbor and beat Michigan. So they battle tested. So again, but right now, those are the like eye test only. Those three teams are playing the best right now. So if I had a poll right now, it'd be Texas 1, Georgia 2, Miami 3. Um, I would put USC 4, um, Ohio State 5, Syracuse is somewhere in the mix right there. Um, I know it's a team that I'm missing. Oh yeah, Ole Miss would be in there too. But like, bro, like that would be the top 10. Like those teams right now, nothing looks hard. Now people can bring up difficulty of opponent because obviously Miami hasn't played. They don't have a Michigan or a Clemson on their resume right now because Florida's not looked at that. But you still have to look at the way that they thoroughly dominated the game. That's what I'm talking about. Not just strength of opponent. Like, look at how easy they're making this look, right? But that's it. But anyway, man, getting to the last game, man, because I didn't want this video to go that long. But like I said, I got a little affinity for Georgia. So I'm not Georgia, but Oregon. So I'm gonna shoot them a little bit. Oklahoma State versus Arkansas. Arkansas will look back at this game. Sam Pittman and his coach staff gonna look back at this game and say, how in the world did we lose this game? And football is on average, it's probably 150, 160 plays collectively, both teams from an offensive standpoint, defensive, however, have whichever way, right? And but there's always one or two plays that seem to stand out more than the others just because you're not so much looking at like a run play where maybe an offensive lineman misses a block or where the wide receiver misses a block or where a quarterback misses a read. Like, you're not necessarily looking at those plays. But if someone misses a field goal, if someone muffs a punt, you're kind of going to look at those plays, right? And I think for the most part, most Arkansas fans are going to say, hey, look, that's what cost us the game. We missed the field goal that would have put them up by that would have put them in a situation where Oklahoma State could have scored, but the game wouldn't have been tied. So they missed that field goal. Oklahoma State goes down the field, scores, and then subsequently gets a 2-point conversion. So the game is tied. Then their defense forces a 3-and-out. Oklahoma State punts the ball to them, and they muff the punt. Right? So I think that's what it's gonna come down to, man. Jackson right now, it's so much good running back play in college football right now. I mean, so much good running back play. Like Jackson, man, Jackson is balling, man. Like, I mean, he's balling. Tyler Green played a good game. Obviously, in the overtime, he missed that wide open pass to the just pretty much short hopped it, right? Like he probably wanted to make the pass too perfect. Didn't want to risk overthrowing him, but by not risking the overthrow, you expediently increase the likelihood that you underthrow the ball, and which is what ended up happening because he catches that. Now, not saying they would have got the 2-point conversion, not saying they would have got it, but that does make it harder when you have situations where a defense has a lapse and leaves someone wide open and you miss it. That just makes it even harder because maybe psychologically in your mind you're like, dang, I missed the opportunity, so that might throw you off the next play, right? But but oh, I said this was the last game. I got another game. I still got to do Tennessee NC State, but I'm gonna say that for last. But anyway, we're gonna go ahead and get through this. Ollie Gordon was held in check into overtime, right? So kudos to their defense, right? Because obviously going into this game, everybody knows what you have to do to slow down Oklahoma State. You have to slow down Ollie Gordon, which they did. But Presley had himself a game, right? I think when I saw a graphic, he was targeted about 14 times, had 9 catches. So you got to work with that. And then I think it's Rashad Owens, the other wide receiver that they have. So they have that. Like I said, Jaquindon Johnson Jackson, not Johnson. Jackson had a big game. Like I said, the missed field goal and the muff punt. I think again, most people from the Arkansas fans are gonna look at that and say, "Man, that's what ended up losing us the game." Um, and this is another thing, right? And this is what when I talked about Syracuse versus Georgia Tech. When you're playing what is perceived to be the better team, if you have an opportunity to put your foot on their neck, you have to do it. And that's what Arkansas failed to do. Oklahoma State was the better team, right? From a ranking perspective, from most people will look at Oklahoma State and say, yeah, Oklahoma State a better team than Arkansas. And Arkansas did not put their foot on their neck. The third quarter, Arkansas had opportunities to get down the field, make some plays, and kudos to Oklahoma State. They prevented them from scoring, and they subsequently went around and took the lead. And if not for a blown coverage, in which Tyler Green found the tight end in the back, found the tight end on a seam route, he ran it for the end zone. Had it not been for that play, they probably would have literally shut Arkansas out the entire second half. So again, when you got a team down, man, you have to step on them. There's no other way around it. You have to step on them. You cannot allow for them to have any breathing room. You have to step on them, right? And Arkansas failed to do that. And this is what was so crazy about it, right? So I'm looking, right? So again, as I'm watching the game, I'm like, man, Arkansas getting a lot of penalties. So then when I look at the box score, it's like, well, Arkansas only had 7 total penalties, which you can live with it. The problem is when the 7 penalties occurred, you had 2 pass interference calls that occurred in the fourth quarter, which subsequently helped Oklahoma State get down the field. And you had a unnecessary roughness call in overtime that again put Oklahoma State in position to win. So again, when you are the inferior team, even though you played like the superior team in the first half, you can't have self-inflicted issues like that, man. You just can't have that. Because if you do, this is what ends up happening. Ali Gordon gets loose, catches a touchdown pass to take the lead, and then subsequently turns around and catches the 2-point conversion. And that ends up being the final score of the game because y'all turn around and y'all can't score. You can't have that happen, man. And one other thing, man, that I've noticed kind of like field goal kicking is odd right now. Like it started the first week of the season, Minnesota versus North Carolina. Minnesota to work the ball down the field, and they ready to line up and kick the field goal and win the game by 1 point, and they miss it. I'm like, how? Oregon missed the field goal against Boise State. This game, you got missed field goals, and then Miami Hurricanes. Borregales missed the field goal against Florida. So right now, and then the thing about this game is the field goal kicker for Arkansas. He nailed a 46-yard field goal, which put them into overtime. But then when they get into overtime, he misses a field goal. So I don't know, man. Like putting it in. I know some people. I know how some people feel about the kicker and all this stuff and all that. But like it's been rough, right? But anyway, man, we're gonna wrap this up, man. Tennessee versus NC State. I watched this game in its entirety. I felt like Tennessee was the better team. I know some people had NC State pegged as a dark horse to be a playoff team. I didn't see it. I know some people were amping up the Grayson McCall going over to NC State, but I just don't. I don't see it. And man, I'm telling you, when this Tennessee offense, because as I'm looking at Tennessee, what I've noticed about this, their offense is based on timing, progression, and everything has to be in rhythm. If you do not knock them off rhythm, I don't care who you are, you're not going to stop Tennessee. That's just how lethal I think their offense is. Now, subsequently, Miami's offense, my team, I don't like, we can do the rhythm thing, but we have a quarterback that is able to operate outside of the framework of the offense and still be effective. I don't know if Nico can do that. Right. And again, Nico's still young. But when this offense is in rhythm, you're not beating Tennessee. And they have a complementary defense right now. Because looking at this, right? NC State whether you're a fan of NC State or whether you know college football, NC State has two of the better players in college football, and Casey Concepcion and Jordan Waters. Tennessee held them, both of them, to 49 total yards. That's what the Tennessee defense did. Two of the best players in college football. Tennessee held them to 49 yards. So essentially, Tennessee stopped roughly 80 to maybe 90% of NC State's entire offense by slowing down those two guys. That's how big those two guys are in that offense. And Tennessee held them to 49 yards. So now again, I don't know if Tennessee's going to be able to do this, moving forward. I know many people are high on James Pierce. Some people have him as the early favorite to be the number one overall pick. But when it gets to the top of the draft, some teams may need quarterbacks. But again, there's so many, there's so many, months away. But you're not going to beat Tennessee if you do not get them off rhythm. Sampson is running the ball, and we're not talking about like the little cheap little runs where it's like, all right, we catch you off guard and like, ooh, we hand it off and get 7 8 yards. No, at the snap of the ball, like we broke the huddle, or it's not a hurry up situation. We done look to the sideline, got what we're gonna do. We line it up. We're gonna hand the ball to Sampson, and he's gonna get the yardage. So, but they scored 50 some points. Scored 51 points on NC State, and I mean, bro, they are dangerous. Like, they are dangerous. Now, I think Georgia may be in a situation maybe to disrupt them. Maybe. But if they don't, because again, I'm like most people. I'm like, all right, it's Tennessee, Josh Heupel. You got the little silly little offense, the little college offense that only works in college. But it's so simplistic to the point that it's like it don't have to be overly difficult, or it doesn't have to look like a lot is going on. If they are in time, if they are in rhythm, I don't care if the 85 Bears are lined up against them. If you do not disrupt that rhythm, you're not beating Tennessee. You're not beating Tennessee. You don't have you're not going to have the offense to keep up with Tennessee. They have, again, and one thing I notice about a lot of these teams that are at the top, like from an offensive perspective, they got a plethora of weapons. Miami, plethora of weapons. Tennessee, plethora of weapons. Oregon, plethora of weapons. A team that I talked about earlier, Syracuse, plethora of weapons. And one thing that all of them have in common, if you do not disrupt that offense enough, you do not have enough firepower to keep up with them. But with that being said, man, I know I done talked a lot. I know my dog Cuban Kane gonna talk about me with the same hoodie on, but hey, man, when I'm able to get a little time to shoot a video, or to make some videos, we gotta roll them out back to back, baby. But anyway, man, as always, man, y'all like, share, subscribe, and make sure y'all check me and Chuck and Chubby out, man. We try to push this thing, man. But anyway, man, like, share, subscribe, comment, and I'm out. Peace.